Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, The Helpline. I'm Seema Anand, and I have with me today a really interesting guest. I have Fern with us today. Fern works as one of the adult content creators with a platform called MakeLoveNotPorn. And MakeLoveNotPorn is a platform which actually offers you real life sex videos as opposed to scripted adult content. So that makes it really unusual and different already. But what makes Fern really interesting and different for me is that Fern actually has vaginismus and she is creating content, adult content, based on having vaginismus, which I just think is so incredible because the adult content industry generally is based on the idea that all performers in this industry are sexually unblocked and they can just do anything, and that anything to do with adult content must be about penetration. So this is one of the biggest stereotypes that Fern is breaking, and she's the only person I know who's actually doing this. So we are super excited to have Fern with us today. Fern, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me.
Thank you so much, Seema. It's lovely to be here. I'm such a big fan of your work.
Oh, thank you. So, also, just to let everybody know that we have turned Fern's camera off for personal reasons. She does have content that is created where if you actually go, I think it's a paid platform that you have, right, Fern?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, if people want to actually see you or see your work, they can actually go on to that platform to see you. But for the purposes of this podcast, you're going to have your video off.
hmm
Excellent. So I'm going to dive right in. Yesterday, I put this up on stories that I was going to be chatting to you and whether people had questions for you. And I have been flooded with questions that people want to ask because it is such an unspoken of topic, isn't it? Even today, there's
Mm,
just almost, it's not just that we don't talk about it, but there's almost like a shame around it because people feel that if they have vaginismus, if they cannot participate in penetrative sex, then something's wrong with them and they need to be fixed somehow. So I think that
mm,
everybody was absolutely thrilled that somebody like you was going to come on and maybe try and help them to understand a few things. So are we ready to start?
mhm. Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. So a lot of people want to know actually about your journey. And I think one of the first questions and one of the most asked questions that came in was that when did you first realize that there was something happening in your body to actually block penetration? Do you remember what it felt like when you discovered vaginismus or your first experience with vaginismus? Was it physical pain?
Mm,
Was it fear? Was it numbness? Like what exactly did you feel when you actually realized
mm.
that you had this?
Yeah, so for me, it was actually my wedding night, um, which was 2011. I was 22 and I had just thought, okay, I'm setting myself for marriage. And so it's just going to happen. And it didn't. And it was just this feeling of like a complete barrier. There was no kind of like sense of openness or being able to receive. It was just this complete blockage. Um, and I guess at that point, pain wasn't really a part of it because it sort of didn't ever get far enough for there to be pain. That sort of came later. But yeah, that was definitely my first recollection of, okay, something is actually wrong here.
So when you say that there was this blockage, did you feel that you couldn't open yourself up to the idea of penetration, or was it that you couldn't permit it physically to happen?
Mm. I think in my head, I was feeling ready for it. I mean, obviously, your wedding day is a huge day. There's a lot of emotions, and I was pretty tired and things. But, mentally, I was feeling like, okay, this is my moment. There probably was a lot of pressure with that as well, which can't have helped. But yeah, it was definitely more of a physical thing that was the big issue for me in that moment.
So I'm just trying to understand this because there's so many people who've actually written to ask, what are the symptoms, or how do you realize that you have
Mm,
vaginismus? So I'm just trying to unpick this for them to explain,
yeah.
because it's not just the fact that they're trying to understand it, but even trying to explain it to a partner who has no idea what's happening. And I'm sure that
Mhm.
your partner at that point, your husband at that point, would have been
Mm,
equally confused. It would have been equally difficult for him to understand what was happening, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it's basically your muscles are just involuntarily tightening up, and there's sort of, yeah, in that moment, you kind of feel like there's nothing you can do, no amount of breathing or positive thinking that can sort of help you to stop that from happening. Um, and yeah, you kind of get stuck in this feedback loop where your body starts anticipating that the next time, and then your brain also gets involved in thinking and just, yeah, expecting that there's going to be pain, expecting there's going to be a blockage. And there's just all this anxiety, and your muscles can't relax. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it becomes a whole big cycle.
yes, I know. I mean, I just think that most people don't realize how much of a role the brain plays over here, because you
Mm,
literally do kind of start to anticipate that the next time it's going to be like this. And so you clench up, tighten up even more.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think for me, a big part of that was kind of the way that I was brought up. So I was brought up in a Catholic family. I went to Catholic school, and sex was always talked about, if it was talked about at all. It was a very functional thing. It wasn't really to do with pleasure or anything like that. It was, man and a woman get married and they have sex to be intimate and to make a baby. That's kind of the only two reasons that you would have sex. And um, I always kind of felt like I was naturally quite a sexual person. Um, I, was exploring myself, from when I became uh, like a prepubescent person. And I knew that there was pleasure there, but I didn't really think that it was right. Um, and there was a lot of talk, in the church about having impure thoughts. And so I felt a lot of guilt every time that I masturbated. That, oh no, I can't think about this, I can't think about that. And so yeah, it was always this feeling of like, oh, you have to stop when you get to a certain point. And then later on, when I started dating, there was this kind of phrase that's used in Christian circles, which is like everything but. And so you sort of feel like, okay, well, I have to save sex for marriage, but I'm not supposed to, but I'm going to try and get around that in, different loopholes and things. Um, and so, yeah, you kind of be getting hot and heavy with a partner, and then you're like, oh, I have to stop at this point. And so that kind of constant message being reinforced all the time of you have to stop in your head and with your body, um, it's very hard to get out of. You've been kind of, it's been ingrained for me, it was like 20 years by that point. So um, yeah, it was really tricky to get out of that mindset.
It's interesting you should say that you get to that point where you think, I like this, it's going to give me pleasure. But when you get to that point of pleasure, you force yourself to stop, because that's where you start to feel guilty. And then it's like, that is something that the brain gets used to doing, that, okay, I've got to this point, I now need to stop, because this is bad, this is wrong. And it's amazing
Mm,
what it actually does to your internal workings of the body.
yeah, yeah.
So when, again, going back, because people have actually said that, how come I can masturbate, but I cannot have penetrative sex? So when you
Mm,
were masturbating, when you were getting hot and heavy, was it okay when your partner touched you down there? If, I mean, touching was okay, right? Rather than just complete
mm,
penetration. So were you even
yeah,
all right at that point with that?
yeah. I was fine with that. I was very comfortable, with my clitoris and oral sex and all that sort of thing. Yeah, it was just the actual penetration that was the issue.
It's just so interesting, because a lot of people will write in and say about this, particularly partners who don't understand how this works. So I'm really happy to hear
Mm,
you say out loud that it's okay, even sometimes with oral sex, it's okay with the fingers, it's okay with even the clitoris being touched, but it's the
mm,
penetration with uh with the male organ or even with a
mm,
toy or something going all the way in, and that is the problem.
mm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so we come next to the idea that you finally have come through it, and I want to know a little
Mhm,
bit more about that journey. But just
mm,
start by telling me how long this lasted, how long you went through this, what impact that had on your relationship, and when was it that you finally decided that you had to do something about it?
mm. Yeah, so my marriage actually only lasted for 5 years, and the vaginismus was a big part of why that didn't work out, although there were lots of other things going on. Um, and I think in some senses, it sort of became a bit of a scapegoat for my partner that, I'm not getting sex, and so it's okay for me to sleep around, or um, yeah, there was just a lot of pressure on me in that relationship to kind of just get over it, and everything would be fine if we could just be, intimate in the way that he wanted to be intimate. Um, and eventually, I think it took a couple of years before I actually went to go and see a GP about it. And she referred me to a gynecologist, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. Like, this woman, she's got lots of letters behind her name. She probably knows what she's doing. But that was actually quite a traumatic experience for me, because she decided that the best way to see what was going on was to stick a speculum up me. And so my first experience with penetration was actually a piece of cold, hard metal on, a bed in a doctor's room. And yeah, it was very, very painful. And I felt that she wasn't sort of listening to what I was saying about how painful it was. And she kind of just said, "Oh, you just need to maybe like drink a glass of wine and relax, and it will all be fine." Which I know a lot of other people have heard as well. It's just kind of this thing of like, "Oh, just relax and it'll be okay." Um, and yeah, she then gave me the name of another person, like a physio, and I think I was actually just so traumatized by that experience. I didn't actually go and see the physio. Um, I just thought, nah, I need to try and maybe do something on my own. And so, yeah, I ended up coming across this website, which I can't actually find it anymore. I don't know if it's changed names, but there was a forum on there. And it was really helpful to just firstly see that there were other women going through the same problem as me, that I wasn't alone. And they actually sold dilators on this website. And so they're basically just these little um, plastic dildos, I guess you would call them. They're sort of like very medical, very hard, and
Mm.
it's basically like different sizes that you work up to be able to penetrate. And so I kind of started off with those, and yeah, I could never really get that far. It was a very yeah, very tricky process for me to work through. Um, and I think once that relationship ended, I kind of felt like, okay, well, there's no reason now for me to go any further. Like, I'm single, I'm still able to enjoy my pleasure. I don't really need penetration. Um, and it was only quite a few years later when I started dating another person that um, I thought, okay, I'm really feeling this lack of intimacy with him, and he was a bit more supportive about things. And so I went to see a physio finally, and she was really good. She helped me to work through things. I also got diagnosed with hypermobility, which sort of was
Sorry, with
another
what?
reason, hypermobility.
Hypermobility. Okay.
So yeah, it's basically the way she explained it is that all of my muscles are kind of working overtime just to kind of hold my body together because everything is so flexible. Um, and a big part of that is what's going on in my pelvic floor. And so, yeah, she gave me lots of exercises to do with the pelvic floor, being able to, um, it was a lot of it was about feedback. And so knowing what was actually going on with my muscles, knowing what it felt like when they were tight so that I could then release that and and relax them again, as well as working with the dilators. And I think something that I found um, through all of that, at first I would say, okay, I'm going to do my exercises and then reward myself with masturbating so that I can build up a positive association. And after a while, I kind of realized that there was sort of a bit of like a weird negative thing going on there. And so I actually flipped it in the end. And so I started off with the pleasure part of it. And then when my body was in that state of arousal and um, more open and lubricated, then I would do the practices. And that actually really helped. I think not just physically, but also with my brain, just kind of start to associate penetration with the pleasure as well. And yeah,
That is,
I ended
that's
up,
just amazing.
yeah. Yeah, I thought yeah, it was pretty powerful when I came to that realization. Um, and then it was just a few months later when I actually ended up having penetrative sex for the first time with my partner. And yeah, it just such a proud moment for me. I like I know lots of people cry after sex, but this was like a different type of crying. This
I
felt like all of this work and emotion and things that I'd been through. Yeah, it was pretty special.
Do you know what? I'm just going to repeat this once because I think it needs to be heard and said over and over again. I love what you
Mm,
just said. We normally say this for people when they had sex and when they say that they get pain and so on. And we say about the importance of arousal, the importance of making sure that your body is ready for it. And
mm,
we tend to do this a lot, don't we? What you just said, that you do your exercises and then you reward yourself after, no matter what kind of exercises you're doing, that you do that afterwards. But the fact that you started by first masturbating, we realized that your muscles needed that little boost to say, this is going to feel good, so go ahead and do some more. So
mm,
you would masturbate first and then go and do the exercises that were going to help your muscles to relax a little bit more. I think that is such a powerful piece of learning. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
mm. Yeah, yeah, no problem. And I
No,
guess
I think
that's how foreplay works as well. So it's sort of like a like a natural progression in a way.
no,
Mm,
absolutely. I know that when you talked about what your gynecologist said, I had a message from somebody because, like I said, I put it out on stories and I was waiting to hear what people said. And this lady wrote to me saying, um, her question, which we're going to address later, is how do you explain to your partner? Because they think that you're doing this on purpose because the gynecologist
mm,
apparently said to her, having sex is like if the body gets hungry, it'll eat food, and if it gets thirsty, it'll drink water. So if you really wanted sex, you would just be able to do it.
mm,
And I just think, it's amazing how much more destructive a bad medical opinion or a bad piece of medical advice can be than what your own body is going through.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, just before we move on to the next question, I just want to ask, you said that you tried lots of different things, and it's a progression of getting to the next point. And, a lot of people would write in and say, what was it like the first time? But the first time is not necessarily that you go from not being able to penetrate to being able to penetrate. It's a
Mm,
whole sort of spectrum. It's a whole range of things that you go through, right? My
yeah.
friend Dr. Anvita Behl, who's a psychosexual therapist, she'll often talk about this, that your first time is not sort of from 0 to 100. It's all the little things that you try in between. And what I'd really like to
Mm,
know is, again, something that people have asked is, how did it feel in your body every single time that you tried something new? What sensations would come up? Where would those sensations come up? And how frightening or motivating were those sensations?
mm. Yeah, I think for me, a lot of those sensations were in my pelvic floor. And I guess because, yeah, a lot of the time I sort of felt like I had to mentally prepare and sort of get into this state. I did have a bit of anxiety and sort of almost like shakiness. Um, I think being warm is was a really big thing for me. Like, yeah, feeling being in a cold room or just like uncomfortable physically was not cool. So I'd always make sure I'd had like really nice warm shower, warm bath or something, in a nice, yeah, quiet spot. Knew I wasn't going to get interrupted. That feeling of safety was very important. And I think, yeah, I don't know, it was kind of like a feeling of openness. There would always be a bit of resistance at first, and I think I just the last therapist that I saw was really helpful with that, just kind of um, helping me to realize that okay, you get to a certain point, and then you can just stop and relax there, and you don't need to push. And so yeah, she would always say, kind of, for today, I just want you to put your finger in up to the first knuckle. And that's all you need to do. And once you're there, you can just leave it there for a few minutes, whatever. Just do some deep breathing and, think happy thoughts. And that, yeah, you don't need to go any further in that session. And so, yeah, it's kind of like every time you do that, um, you would start in the same way. And then maybe the next time you could go a little bit further. But it was all about just taking it super, super slow, like really, really small steps each time. And I mean, I don't think I ever really got past maybe the third size of the dilator before I um, had sex with a partner. Um, and I think the other thing with that is that, yeah, just kind of physically, the dilators are kind of hard, rigid, whereas a penis is it's got a different
Yeah,
shape, it's got different texture. And so
temperature.
there's
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And all of that actually almost makes it easier than if I was maybe to use the same, size of a dilator in the same situation. Um, yeah, and so I think the other thing that was really helpful for me was just to try to break down this fear of penises. Um, and I think Make Love Not Porn was really instrumental in that because just the the whole world of mainstream porn is all about how big can the penis be, like bigger is better, and it's all about like, yeah, just
yeah, it's got to be big,
huge, huge.
and then it's amazing. Yeah,
Exactly, yeah. It's everywhere. And so I was really just like, it was becoming like a real fear for me, like I don't want to see that. I don't want to get like, scared of that with a partner. And so that's kind of why I started going on to make up porn. But I just wanted to see normal people. And it was, um, yeah, just really freeing to be able to see, okay, this is what it's like in real life. It doesn't have to be scary. And I think also just seeing the love and the trust between the people on the screen was, yeah, just really encouraging for me as well.
because that's actually, like you said, it's real life sex. It's people who love each other, who are in good relationships, videoing themselves, having consensual, loving, connected sex. and you can actually see it.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
makes such a difference to see that rather than things that have been filmed for the sake of getting more views.
yeah, exactly. Mm,
My goodness, there's just so much that we never, we never think about because sex generally is such a taboo. I mean, we don't even talk about it. So the fact that, for most of us, we grow up thinking of it as something bad, something to feel guilty about, something dirty, or something that you do behind closed doors. And the associations are just never loving. So I
mm,
think that, that there is platform like Make Love Not Porn that has real life sex videos that have really beautifully connected couples makes such a difference. But yeah, so
mm,
like you were saying, that just watching normal people with normal sized bodies having sex
mhm.
was a huge motivator for you to be able to think, I can manage this. Um,
Yeah.
they aren't all going to be these massive, great big things that are coming at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, very quickly, just to add over here, since we've talked about dilators, somebody asked, are dilators safe? And I know that they are,
Mm.
but would you like to tell us a little bit about how you just felt about dilators?
Yeah, I think the ones that I got, they kind of say they're like medical grade plastic and that sort of thing. Um, it's yeah, I think also the type of lube that you use is quite important. So something that you feel comfortable with. I really liked using one that was more natural. I think it was like beeswax based. Um, and yeah, just making sure you wash them and things like you don't would with sex toys. Yeah, I didn't ever feel that there was going to be any kind of risk of injury or anything like that. Um, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So
Mm.
we're now going to come to your work on the in the adult entertainment industry. So everybody wants to know, including me, what actually led you to the adult content industry? Like, did you think that this is what I want to do because it's something that interests me? Did you think I want to do this because I have vaginismus and I'm working so hard to come through it, and that's why I should enter? Or was it a
Mm.
barrier? I mean, like, was the vaginismus part of your story when you entered, or was it the barrier
Mm.
that you faced when you entered?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, it was more about kind of freedom. Um, yeah, freedom of expression, freedom to explore my sexuality, and kind of um, also to be able to show other people who might have vaginismus as well that you can still have pleasure and that you are still worth, you know, feeling sexy and enjoying yourself. Um, for me at the time, it was actually more because I'd just gotten out of a relationship that was a bit controlling and, um, yeah, particularly around sort of my body and how I presented myself to the world. Um, and so it was kind of a bit of a reaction against that. Once that relationship was over, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. Um, yeah, I just feel like this is a good way to express myself. I have always been interested in sex and pleasure, and yeah, I'm just going to go for it.
I think it's fascinating that, and it's so contradictory to what we generally think or hear. It's fascinating to hear you say that even as somebody with vaginismus, you were always interested in sex. It's something that excited you,
Mm,
in spite the fact that penetration wasn't possible for you because your brain and your muscles would not permit it. But that didn't stop
mm.
you from wanting it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how um maybe for some people, even a lot of people, there might be a real kind of loathing of your own body. And I think for me, there was a little bit of that, but I'm very grateful that I was able to kind of separate that out from still being able to experience pleasure, because I think that really kind of helped me through um, those times when when I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, just going back to the content that you were creating, can you tell
Mm.
our audiences what kind of content you created as somebody who could not handle penetration, as somebody who has vaginismus? And also, I think you, which we're going to talk about in a while, you said that you're now starting to explore with sex toys. So that wasn't even part of the journey earlier. So, what kind of
Mm.
content did you actually create for the platform? And also tell us how the viewers reacted to it.
Mm. Yeah, so it's mainly just me masturbating, and it's almost always external. So yeah, I've only done a few videos where I'm actually fingering myself or using a sex toy. And yeah, it's basically like focusing on my clitoris, whether that's with my hands or grinding or yeah, any other sort of movements. I really enjoy moving a lot and dancing and kind of that whole sensual experience. And so, yeah, often, I mean, there can be, my videos can be probably like 20 minutes to half an hour sometimes, just kind of leading up to that orgasm. They don't all have orgasms in them, but usually they do. Um, yeah, and it's just kind of the way that I normally would masturbate when I'm on my own. I'm just doing it in front of a camera.
And the orgasm, when it comes, it's all part of the, because I know that you, for a lot of these
Mm,
videos, you said you've now started to um, show your face, but for a long time it wasn't. It was
mm,
just you were just showing yourself at the lower part of your body, masturbating, and then just
yeah.
orgasmic, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I often like my whole body would actually be in the shot because I would have like a blindfold on. So I think yeah, something that's really a lot of people have commented on is being able to see um kind of my mouth and hear my breathing and all of the other things that are happening in your body when you're aroused and when you're orgasming. And yeah, that's kind of another thing that I really love about Make Love Not Porn is that all of the comments are moderated. So they have to be approved by an admin before you see them. And so that means that everything you're seeing is just like really positive and lovely. And yeah, people write some absolutely beautiful. I mean, they're almost like poetry, talking about how they, yeah, different things that they've enjoyed or how they were pleasuring themselves at the same time as watching me. And I just feel like it's such a beautiful community to be a part of.
It is actually, you've just said, reminded me of something that Cindy told me. So, just for everybody else out there, Cindy Gallup, who is the founder of Make Love Not Porn, and she actually mentioned this to me. She said, we moderate all our comments. So, there's no trolling is permitted. Any comment that goes up
Mm,
has to go through them. And I think that it is absolutely fantastic that she has, in the middle of this horrible world of social media, where every single platform is rewarding trolling, rewarding hatred, rewarding nastiness. She's created this little safe
mm,
haven for people who go on there and just find really beautiful comments around sex and sexuality and touching yourself and so on. And it just makes you think that this is a beautiful world out there. This is the world I'm happy to be part of. So yeah,
mm.
thank you for reminding me about that. It is a really
Yeah,
nice
no.
space to be. And I think even for,
Mm,
let's say, somebody like you who has vaginismus, who's now putting out content um, around her body, trying to get past certain blockages that are in her mind. Just imagine how
mm,
awful it would have been if all you saw on that page was hideousness.
mm,
It
yeah,
would
exactly.
shut you down even more, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, what we're saying is that we don't know if there were creeps out there because there are always creeps out there. But the viewers who come back to you, your audiences, are absolutely thrilled with what you show them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. So the next thing I'd like to talk to you about is partnered intimacy, because I know that you have a partner at the moment and you said that you are sexually active with him, which is wonderful. So happy for you. A lot of people actually
Mhm.
have trouble getting to this point of partnered intimacy. But once they get there, I think the biggest fear is in case they slide back, which we all know is a normal thing because there are going to be days when you freeze again, when you slide backwards. And I think the fear
Mm.
is that if they've gotten this far and they slide, is that going to mean that they're back to point zero again? So some of the questions
Mm.
that came in, and I'm going to read them all out, and then you can sort of pick them as we go. So somebody wants to know, what are the boundaries or rituals that you actually start with that will help you to make sure that you stay relaxed and happy? How would you actually relax your body before you go and have partnered sex? And how easy is it to tell your partner on that particular day? Because every day is different, and every day your mood and the way that you're feeling is different. So, how easy is it to tell your partner what you need on that particular day to make you feel safe and so that you don't shut down emotionally?
Mm. Yeah, I think the boundaries one is really important. So I think establishing early on in any relationship, um, different types of boundaries, it kind of, once that's sort of a part of your relationship and the way that you communicate, it becomes easier in a sexual context as well. And so for me, I have had, particularly because my partner at the moment is, he does have a larger penis, which I sometimes, yeah, it can still be a little bit more tricky for me to take. It's about, yeah, what do I do? I think for me, a lot of the arousal state and the relaxation state is about the mind. And so being um, being open with him and feeling safe is kind of the first step. And so if there's any kind of tension or unresolved things that are going on in our relationship, um, I think for me it's important to try to address that before there's any sexual intimacy because yeah, it does kind of affect the way that you're um, the way that your body responds in those moments. Um, I have had
So, if
moments
you've got
where,
arguments going on, or if you disagreed on something, you want to
yeah,
resolve that first.
yeah, I think so. Um, I mean, yeah, obviously there's big things that maybe you need to work through over a longer period, but sometimes even just acknowledging those things and being able to say that this is an issue. We're not going to talk about it now, but let's just say that it's there and we can try to move on and do something else. Um, I think, yeah, there have been moments where I have felt like I was ready and we're sort of, um, going through foreplay and whatever, and there might be a bit of penetration. And yeah, for whatever reason, I do feel like I'm tensing up or something. Um, I think the first few times with my new partner, it was tricky to know how to deal with that. He did know a lot about my history and, what was going on for me. But he didn't really know how to respond. And so um, I think just being able to take control of the situation and say, okay, this is what's happening. I need to just back off for a little bit. Um, and it's a great opportunity to then just cuddle and kind of take the pressure off for a little while, reestablish that feeling of safety and connection. And sometimes we will try again, a little while later, and sometimes we won't, and that's okay. I think it's just important not to try to push through or to ignore your own feelings in that moment because it's only going to make it worse for you down the track. Um, and it's important that your partner knows that as well because um, I know that a lot of men kind of, I don't know, they have this thing of like, oh, I get this monkey brain and I can't, think rationally or whatever. I mean, like, that's not an excuse. So I think, yeah, just being really clear about those boundaries beforehand and being able to, yeah, just to be confident in saying, okay, I still, I think, yeah, I think it's important for them to feel like you still desire them sexually and that it's not because of them. Um, I know previous partners have, it has really affected their own self-esteem or their own kind of, um, I don't know, like sexual confidence, thinking, oh, okay, like why can't things just work? And, if she found me really desirable, then it would all be okay. And so I think it is also important to validate that, but at the same time, stand up for yourself and for your own needs.
Yes, a lot of there's a lot of myth around the fact that if you love me or if you are excited by me, it would automatically happen. Or that if you enjoyed the thought of sex, if you thought sex was a good thing, it would just automatically happen. And of course, nothing in the body is automatic.
Hmm.
Okay, when you do manage to have sex, because it is
Hmm.
still, like you said, you still have to go through the whole process of relaxing your body, preparing yourself before you actually do it. Did you actually mention any rituals that you might sort of do? You said that you have to feel
Mm.
safe, you feel that warmth makes you feel better. If
Mm.
being in a cold, uncomfortable room doesn't help. But is
Yeah,
there
yeah.
anything
I
else
think
that you
also,
do?
I think just moving, like, for me, there's no better way to get ready than to be out dancing all night. And if I'm not out somewhere, then to just dance inside. Um, I think, yeah, just like moving my hips, getting that sort of freedom of movement and that sense of openness and sensuality is really important as a first step.
Oh my God, that is such a powerful thing to say because, within the ancient Indian texts, they always say that this idea of moving your hips, particularly in a sort of round and round movement, that opens up all of the sexual energy channels. It really, really
Mm.
helps to make you feel like you're part of a whole different energy. So the fact that you get moving, and this is what I try and sometimes say to people that particularly women who will go to default mode for making love in sort of in the missionary position where they just lie there, let it happen to them, and they wonder why there
Mm.
isn't that much pleasure. The fact that you need to move your hips just to get that energy flowing. So, okay, so I like that idea. One of your rituals is that you stay warm. One of your rituals is maybe to have a warm bath and get yourself comfortable and safe. And another one is that you dance before you,
Mhm.
or get your hips moving before you have sex.
Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
tell me, do you have an aftercare? Because I would imagine that somebody who has so much anxiety around something and you bring yourself up to that point with great difficulty to manage to do it, what is the
Mhm.
aftercare? Surely there must be something that you have to do afterwards to sort of feel better.
Mm. Yeah, so often for me, that is just doing a couple of pelvic floor exercises. So doing that tensing and releasing, just making sure that my body has fully released all that tension afterwards. Um, Often I'll also, if I'm like cleaning up or whatever, I just really love having like a warm washcloth and I'll just sort of hold it against myself. Um, yeah, it's just kind of like a self-soothing thing. And just lying on my belly. Often, yeah, it's really nice if my partner can then, um, just kind of like press on my lower back when I'm lying on my belly. And that also just helps to relax all those muscles again, reiterate that feeling of safety and connection. Um, yeah, and all of that will just help the next time to reinforce those positive feelings.
Okay, very, very quickly, just before we bring this to an end, a couple of the questions were about how do you debunk the myth that penetration is the only correct way to have sex? I mean, are there other things that you could suggest that people can do, especially if they cannot go through? I know that you mentioned that you go back to foreplay, you do other things. So maybe if you could give a couple of tips on things that are quite exciting for both people to do, which don't include penetration, that maybe people can add to their
Mm.
pleasure diet. And the other
Mhm.
one was that what are the best positions? Um, or is there something like a best position for somebody with vaginismus that can
Mhm.
actually help them?
Yeah. So the first question about non-penetrative sex, I think something that I have really enjoyed exploring is just kind of grinding against each other. And it can actually be um, very, very sexually charged if even if you both still have all of your clothes on. Um, I've actually been in a situation where a partner of I have both orgasmed that way. Like we're just making out. We both still have all of our clothes on, grinding against each other. Um, and I think, yeah, even just that the idea of keeping your clothes on, it almost takes away that pressure of like, okay, maybe penetration isn't even on the table. And so um, it's, yeah, you're just kind of exploring other ways of getting there. So that's kind of fun. Positions when you are having penetration, I do think that um, being on top can be really helpful in the beginning, just to know that you are in control of your own body and to, yeah, be able to control the depth and how fast everything happens. Um, but sometimes it also can be useful to have to kind of be more in a missionary position, but with your legs up. Um, I kind of feel like for me, sometimes being on top, I was maybe a little bit too hesitant or, um, yeah, kind of, I don't know, it was like holding back a little bit. Um, whereas with my partner on top, being and knowing that I was safe and communicating the whole time, um, that could actually help a little bit just to get past that first barrier almost, um, if he was kind of
Yeah,
leading in that way.
yeah,
Um,
legs up, and we generally recommend that feet maybe on your partner's shoulders because that way you can control how
mm,
far they come into you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And sometimes I also find having like one leg down, one leg up as well is quite nice because you get a bit more friction on your clitoris. So that's yeah, just any way that you can get more pleasure is good. Um, I find, yeah, things like doggy style is I still struggle with. Yeah, it's not a comfortable one for me. And I think also because of my hypermobility, I just always have to be a bit more aware of the angle of my pelvis. And so I found, having pillows and different props and things and just experimenting with those have been really helpful.
I was also fascinated by what you said about the sex toys because I know that you've already done videos where you've actually got a video up on Make Love Not Porn where you have fingered yourself for the first time. So you've done it with inserting your fingers inside. You've also told us that you can now manage penetration with your partner, which is amazing. But you've actually started to explore with sex toys now because you found that that was a little bit more difficult. So, can you just explain that for my audience? Because I thought that was quite fascinating.
Yeah. So I think for me, because I don't usually orgasm from penetration alone, like most women, it was kind of a bit of like, okay, well, if I'm on my own, then it's a bit redundant. Um, and I think it's also a way of um, exploring a little bit more. Okay, this is how I can take control. Um, if I use a sex toy, yeah, it's me that's in the driver's seat. It has to be something that I'm very much interested in that moment, usually with clitoral stimulation as well. And yeah, whereas like if I'm with my partner, obviously there is a bit more sense of that we're doing this together, that there are moments when they're a bit more in control or a bit more in control. And so, um, yeah, I think
So this was like a
the
really
idea
scary
now,
step almost that um, you would
yeah,
actually take something and you would penetrate yourself with it, which it's almost like when you say, I have to give myself an injection. And you can't
mhm,
sort of do that where, you'd sort of tense up and let
yeah,
somebody else give you that injection. Um,
yeah,
so you are now at this point, and you've made a couple of videos of experimenting with the sex toy, right?
yeah. I have. It's actually called the one with the tiny dildo, because I did really want to kind of put this whole um like porn thing and turn it around. Like there's this whole thing of women now where they're kind of showing off like this is this huge dildo that I'm going to use and stuff. And yeah, that is also just like very scary to me still. And so I wanted to make it really clear, even in the title, that okay, this is going to be something that was small, and this was me experiencing it for the first time. And so, trying to break down that fear um, and maybe also just bring out a little bit more curiosity of trying something new. Um, yeah, because I think it is still important to try to grow and try to um, evolve things, but always in your own pace and your own time.
Thank you so much, Fern, for that. I have learned so much from this today, and I
Mm,
think that this is going to be really useful for people listening because I just think that we don't talk about vaginismus enough. And to have had you actually talk to us, somebody who not only has this, um, suffers with the emotional distress that comes with it and the physical distress that comes with it, but actually has taken it to a whole new level of courage and put it out in the adult
mm,
content industry, um, so that people, can shift their thinking and think that, okay, sex is not just about huge big organs and everybody just going at it crazily, but that there's a lot of real emotions and anxiety and
mm,
fear and joy and happiness involved in it. So thank you so
mm.
much for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you so much, Seema. Thank you for having me.
I am going to ask you just as we finish, because a lot of times people want to reach out with questions. They may have suggestions. They may just want to see some of your videos. If they want to reach
Mhm.
out to you to ask any of this, where can they find you?
Yeah, so the best way is on Instagram, and my handle is Fern underscore MLNP. My bio has links to my Make Love Not Porn page, and yeah, if you are someone who's suffering with vaginismus, please just DM me. I'm so um, open to answering any more questions.
Thank you so much for that. And for everybody else out there, thank you so much for watching the video with us. If you enjoyed it, if you found it useful, do as always comment, like, subscribe. I will be putting Fern's details in the caption below so you'll know where to get in touch with her. I will absolutely insist that if you're writing to her about a question, be respectful. Don't try and be funny. This is not about you trying to make jokes or being silly. Be respectful, be kind. You have no idea what people go through to be able to get past certain taboos and stigma and to come out to be able to help other people. So we really appreciate everyone like Fern out there in the world. And of course, if you have any other questions, I am on info.seema.anand@gmail.com. Till we meet again, stay safe, stay happy, look after yourselves.